none of the people who do the tech stuff are here. So here's the intro. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Kinda Funny Gamescast. I'm one of your hosts, Greg Miller, alongside Forbes 30 Under 30, a.k.a. the OK Beast, a.k.a. the future class of gaming, Blessing Adeoye Jr.
Was that the right theme song?
I
couldn't tell what that was from most.
That's the Gamescast theme song.
That has not been the Gamescast intro for no less than like 3 or 4 years.
You did the old one.
That's the old one.
That explains, because I was like, no,
true.
that's right. But I was like, no, that's not right.
That's our
Daily.
jingle for.
Yeah.
That's
No, that's
every
everything.
fucking song.
And Jared comes by and Andrea comes by.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. 2018 all over again.
He's a Hispanic heartthrob, Texas treat. Hispanic heartthrob, Texas treat.
Just globe
Clicking heads, globe-trotting. It's been a day over here, ladies and gentlemen.
shreds.
It's been a fucking day over here. Everybody, it's
Oh my
Andy
God.
Cortez. Hey, Andy.
It's just what a disaster. Everything's working fine, and then a thing blows up, and then I'm at the point where I was like, if I just leave the call right now, how will Greg and Blessing react? Like, if I just go for a walk, I need to get the fuck out. I was so frustrated.
So if you are watching
Greg's
live on,
clutch.
if you're a trog watching live on patreon.com/kindoffunnygames, as you can, we are, about 30 minutes late. Sorry. I guess, no, actually, we're 40 minutes late. Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
And then if you're watching on YouTube, you'll notice that, there's a Ghostbusters background because I couldn't download the Gamescast background in time. And Andy is just the best image of Andy I could find on Google because Andy's camera wasn't working. Because Andy was so Kevin is off on assignment, Barrett is off in Hawaii, Tim is off doing other things, and so we're like, we got this. And so I was gonna lead the show, and Andy was gonna run the show, and then Andy turned on his computer and just smoke poured out of it, as happens a lot of times with things that aren't the Steam Deck. And
I don't know, Greg, because here's the thing. I've been running every other show completely fine.
Yeah.
And I opened the thing up, and the program has reset everything to default, and I'm like, what the hell? And then I reinstall, and then everything's just screwed up. And I was really looking forward to it because I've never been able to run Gamescast. I've been able to run in review and podcast a whole bunch, but Gamescast, I was so excited. I had the B-roll screen up and ready, and it's just not gonna work.
I know this is toxic, but they call me toxic.
they call
Poppy
you
in the
Toxic
streets.
Poppy.
They do.
Part of me was hoping, a little bit hoping, that I would see my first work breakdown between Greg and Andy, both for me, just sitting here silently for 30 minutes watching these men just struggle to figure out how to put the show together, because Andy's dealing with his own issues, Greg's dealing with his own issues, and they're we're getting 30 minutes in. I was like, somebody's gonna fucking break their desk with their fists at some point.
I will not lie to you. Well, between at least 4 reinstalls of Wavelink and 5 reinstalls of OBS, I heard Greg building the show because he is absolutely clutch, and I hear him building the show, Blessing, and I can't see him because I don't have Discord up, but I can hear him, and I'm like, oh man, is he about to cry? I was really worried because it's happened to Greg before, and I'm not.
It
trying
happened
to
to Greg in
chastise Greg.
2015. All right, 3 weeks
Okay,
into
but,
Kinda Funny.
I mean, but you have a kid now. You have so many extra stresses in your life,
Sure.
and I'm like, oh man, I'm putting this on Greg.
It's also
right
been
now.
a long day. We're all tired.
Yeah, we've all been doing
Nintendo
different
decided to
things.
do a direct at 6 a.m.
Yeah.
And who does that?
Yeah.
And Greg, don't get me started. Best Buy was like, Mr. Cortez will be at your house between 7:30 a.m. and 11:30 a.m. to fix your TV. And I'm like, hell yeah! After the direct, they'll be here like they're always here. They're always here 20 minutes early. The motherfuckers get here at 10:58.
Oh God.
And I could have slept the whole time. I could have been napping. It's just been a day, dude.
It's been a day, ladies and gentlemen, but we still have quite the Kinda Funny Gamescast for you. If you didn't know, each and every week, 4, sometimes 3 best friends gather on this table, coming to talk about all the things they like, don't like, love, whatever in the video game universe. It's reviews, it's previews, it's topics of the show. That's the Kinda Funny Gamescast, and if it sounds exciting to you, head on over to patreon.com/kindoffunnygames, where you could be watching the show live, just like Rowley is, James Moore, and Jeff L. If you're watching live, you don't have a special job except to comment and talk to each other. Maybe I read them here. Of course, if you wanted to watch later, not when we're recording it a full day before everybody else, you could get it on patreon.com/kindoffunnygames without the ads. You could get it with the post show. You have a good time. Patreon's got exclusive content and all sorts of bonuses for you for this show and every other Kinda Funny show we do. However, if you wanted to save a buck, no big deal. There's a bunch of free ways to support Kinda Funny. First and foremost, you should be using the Epic Creator Code Kinda Funny. If you are on the Epic Game Store, you should use the creator code KindaFunny. If you're on Fortnite buying V-Bucks on your PlayStation or wherever, use Epic creator code KindaFunny. It gets us some money, it doesn't cost you any more, and it's a great deal. However, if you want to support the show specifically, of course, you can get on youtube.com/KindaFunnyGames, roosterteeth.com, and podcast services around the globe each and every week. Of course, you wouldn't get any of the Patreon benefits. You'd have to listen to ads. You'd have to not have the post show in your life, not get to play Bless Who, not get to have a great time, but you still have a hell of a show. You know what I mean? Just like you're having right now, no matter what, with the Ghostbusters background. Will it burn into your TV? I hope not. I thought about that, but at that point, we were too far gone, Bless. We were too far gone, because the Gamescast background usually moves.
What do you mean Ghostbusters? Because right now, I don't know what the screen looks like.
Don't worry about it.
From Ghostbusters in
Don't
review?
worry about what's happening on the screen.
What the fuck are you talking about Ghostbusters?
You know what, Bless? It was a slip of the tongue. I always got Ghostbusters on the brain.
Yeah.
December 2023, new movie's coming out. You coming with me? You're coming with me. Don't worry about it. You'll be suited up. It'll be great.
I don't think I am. I don't think I am.
Housekeeping for you. We're streaming Outriders World Slayer, the brand new stuff from Outriders, on Friday as part of a sponsored stream. Come hang out with Mike, myself, and Blessing as we tear apart new enemies in a new environment. It'll be live after Kinda Funny Games Daily on Friday on twitch.tv/KindaFunnyGames. And if you miss it or listening to this after that Friday, guess what? You didn't miss it. YouTube.com/KindaFunnyPlays. Our newest YouTube channel has all the Twitch archives up for your perusal on demand. So get over there and check it out. Thank you to our Patreon producers, Gordon McGuire and Fargo Brady. Today we're brought to you by Athletic Greens, but I'll tell you about that later. For now, let's begin the show with what is and forever will be topic of the show. Gentlemen, I have a question for you. Of course, Tim Geddes is gone, which means we can finally remove the cancer that is his Nintendo bias and have a real conversation.
Wow.
And so, Blessing, you woke up at the crack of dawn today, 6 a.m.
Yes.
You said, what does Nintendo have for me in this third-party direct? And you got, of course, the Personas coming. Persona 5, Persona 4, Golden, and Persona 3 Portable all coming to Switch. Great news. You got Mega Man Battle Network Legacy Collection. You get Mario and Rabbids Sparks of Hope. You get Portal Companion Collection. Nier Automata, which I know you're going to be all about, right? Harvestella. The list goes on like this. But as I looked through this morning with my cup of coffee, right, and I was actually up 30 minutes before this. I woke up at I got a kid. It's the life you lead now. You know? And I looked at it and I saw, 5:30, and I was like, oh man, like I forgot that it even happened yet. Nibel was starting to. I guess I got up early and then saw it at 6, and I was like, oh man, here it goes. And Nibel's already going.
Is Ben the one posting leaks?
He might be, because he definitely doesn't know what he's talking about. You know what I mean? And some of these leakers definitely don't know what the hell's going on. But as I look through this, I was like, oh, these are nice announcements. Will this be, I've been waiting. Persona 5 just hasn't clicked for me the way Persona 4 Golden did. Barrett has this whole theory, which I get behind too, that it hasn't been portable before. Maybe that's my problem. Maybe Switch would be the thing. But then I was like, oh, well, it's coming to Steam Deck as well at that point. Why would I, and it just started rattling. And I got to the question of, am I, and I'll ask it to you, are you still in love with the Nintendo Switch?
Ooh, in love?
Yeah. It's a tough question. It's a big question. You got to come up with your own answer.
No, I am not, Greg.
Okay.
And I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that I would be more in love if... I think first parties are going to be the only thing that bring me back to love because of how my gaming landscape has changed. Because I've moved primarily towards PC gaming. Boom. I never really portably played anyway. And now that we have been home for the past 3 years or whatever, I have played portably even less now. And so everything has just sort of, like, if there's a game that's out, I'm going to play it on PC because that's the easiest way for me to stream it and for it to look the highest quality. I'm not going to stream a Switch game. It's going to look like Garbo. It's going to run like Garbo. I'll play and view the better version of it. And I think the only thing that can get me excited is, hey, there's a leak of a new Mario game, or there's a new Donkey Kong or Metroid Prime 4. Like, the first parties are the only thing that's going to bring me back because of my gaming habits. The third-party landscape is ruled by my Xbox, my PS5, and my PC.
I'm the same way. Yeah, I'll say right now, the Steam Deck kind of owns me for indies. And I'm kind of with Andy that I am not in love with my Switch anymore in the way that I was in love in 2017 and 2018. And I know for a lot of people that even extended into 2019 with the game output they're putting out in that year too. I don't know. For me, I've not been attached to my Switch the way I was attached to it in the last probably 2 or 3 years. I think that comes back to what the first party output has been. And I think that the thing for me is when I say I'm out of love, it doesn't mean I can't be in love again. I just think I'll have to get that repeated output of like big Switch first party stuff that excites me. I think by the time Breath of the Wild 2 comes through, maybe that'll be the big thing that loops me back in again.
I tossed this out on Twitter. I said, hey, are you still in love with your Nintendo Switch? Why or why not? I got a million responses. Thank you all so much for your time. Echoing kind of what you're saying right there, Bless, is Mario Not Bros, who said, I'm on this cycle where I don't touch it for a month or two and then get a game there and fall in love with the magic of the Switch all over again. And I think that's part of where I'm at with it, is that I love the Nintendo Switch, but I don't think I'm in love with the Nintendo Switch currently. Like, I don't use my Switch currently, and that's a me problem, but this is a me question, right? It's everybody. I don't think anybody's wrong with how they answer it. And for me, the Nintendo Switch was I'm going on a work trip. I'm going away. I'm going to be on the road for a while here. What am I playing and what am I doing? And I'm consuming the indies there, and I'm going through, and with 2020 derailing travel and the world we knew and completely reforming how I do my job and what I do, since I don't do that, I just don't use my Switch. Like, Animal Crossing obviously was a special period of my life because I love the Switch. I love Animal Crossing, and to have it there in this part where Animal Crossing was just the biggest thing in the world, right? Fuck yeah, that was awesome and amazing. And it was, sitting there while Jen put on some show she liked, but I didn't care that much for, and playing my Switch and hanging out with it. And actually, the show she put on during pandemic, one of the many, obviously, during pandemic, but at the Animal Crossing thing was Alone, which is that wilderness survival show, which she fell in love with and, like, watched 6 seasons of it next to me. And I was, tinkering with Animal Crossing, and she would be too, and Lucy would come out because we were still living with her at the time, and she'd play on Animal Crossing. But what I find now, like right now, there's a new season or two of Alone or whatever, and so she started watching that again. And not once have I been, I should go pick up my Switch. It's been, I'm going to remote play with my backbone and my phone. I'm going to play remote play PlayStation. I'm going to use Xbox Game Pass. I'm going to go get those kind of experiences there. And even where, like, the Switch was my indie machine for so long, I find myself, maybe it's because I'm busier with Ben or in work and everything else, but waiting for them to come to PlayStation, waiting for them to come somewhere that is going to be, better for me. Like, even in that works a little bit with Xbox, where I keep talking about Moonglow Bay and how much I loved playing that game, but how much even playing it, I was like, this needs to be on the Switch. But it is on remote play. I just don't want to play it on that small of a screen. And now I'm going to play it on Steam Deck when I get my Steam Deck this week. Like,
Greg.
Yeah.
Do you think this is like a Toy Story-like situation where your Switch is alive, right? It's there with Woody and Buzz and all the toys, and your Switch is like, they're watching Alone again. I'm gonna get used, and then you and you just don't use it. That's so heartbreaking to me, Greg. That I think you conditioned your Switch to be like, it's gonna get some playtime, and then it just sits on the bench.
If you want, even more heartbreaking in that scenario is the fact that my Switch, of course, I bought the OLED Switch, right? And so my original Switch, my launch model, is just in the island of misfit tech in the other room, in the shelves. That's just been sitting there collecting dust. And then I have the OLED Switch, which I am a stranger to. This thing came out in October, and my son was born on the 8th of October.
I don't even know you.
Who the fuck are you?
I have put no time into any. There's nothing I've seriously played on the OLED Switch. Because it was like, it dropped and it was like, Dread comes out, and then people are like, oh man, Dread's really one of those like punishing Metroidvania. Like, I don't want to play that. Like, that's not something I want to get into. And then there's been a few other things where it's just then like, I'll turn it on and tinker with it and put it down. And like, I wanted to do Monster Hunter the other day, and like I took it to Quebec with me. I was up in Canada and I was playing the Big Con on it, and I was like, all right, yeah, like it's whatever. But I find myself constantly downloading things to it. Like, I got, Live Alive, the demo, right? Or Live Alive, whatever the hell it is.
Oh yeah, I need to download that.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I'm interested to try that. I hope it gets its hooks in me, and I'm totally committed. But even Project Triangle Strategy,
Octopath,
right?
Yeah.
Like, I had been I loved Octopath. I played so many hours of Octopath on my original Switch. When I got that onto this and started playing with it, it was like, oh man, like, I am just not into this kind of RPG with the grid-based combat and like the thing. And so it's like, just I turned it off. I was like, damn it, I want to find something to get enraptured with on Switch again and be sucked into the Switch ecosystem. Because I'm similar to what Mario was talking about, what you were talking about, Bless. When a game comes along that I'm like, fuck yeah, I'm all about it. But otherwise, I just feel this thing's sitting around.
Do you feel how much of that do you put on you, and how much of that do you put on the Switch? Because I know when we were talking about the last 12 months or so, or even the last 6 months of the Switch, we're talking about Metroid Dread, which was a Game of the Year contender.
Sure.
We're talking about Pokemon Legends Arceus, which was huge for a lot of people. We're also talking about Kirby and the Forgotten Land, which was huge for a lot of people as well. Not even put up there as like a Game of the Year contender. And I know probably all three of those games. I don't know if any of those speak to Greg. And even for me, right? Like I really liked Kirby, and like I tried out Pokemon, thought I was gonna be more into it, dropped off of it. And Metroid Dread, I thought was cool. I enjoyed that as well. But even those for me, I don't look at those as this is the peak of the Switch experience here. Like I still go back to, oh man, no, 2017 was where it's at, because it was, here's Breath of the Wild 2, here's ARMS that I played for a day, here's Splatoon 2 for the people that love Splatoon.
People were convincing themselves left and fucking right back in the day in 2017 that ARMS was the shit.
I was so
that?
hyped about
That's
ARMS.
crazy.
I was hyped about ARMS.
Who were those people?
But like you then also had like a bunch of indie stuff too, right? You had Golf Story, you had I think I said Mario Odyssey, right? But as the years goes on, I have those games that I associate with Switch. You have Celeste come out in I believe 2018, come through and make a big impact. And for me, that was a Switch game. In 2019, I think 2019 was big for me in the Switch because there was a stretch of Devolver Digital games that were coming out and were fucking just killing it. Yeah, it was Ape Out. It was that, followed by Katana Zero, followed by Gato Roboto, followed by My Friend Pedro, and I think right before Ape Out actually was Grease or Chris, whatever you want to call it, right? Like it was game for game coming out from Devolver Digital, and all of them were on the Switch, and I played all of them there because, like you, the Switch was my indie machine. And as time has gone, and I don't know what's shifted, because even now, even before the Steam Deck, I don't think I was using my Switch as my indie machine, because as I go back, the latest games I've been playing on this thing, right, have been Ring Fit, that I put probably about 15 to 20 hours into. I downloaded Umurangi Generation, did not touch it on the Switch. I go back to Kirby, and then it is like Sonic Mania and Just Shapes and Beats, right? I've barely touched this thing in 2022, and it's hard for me to pin down whether that's the Switch's fault or whether that's my fault, and like how I guess the games just haven't spoken to me as much as they have in the past there.
It's a number of things for me where like I mentioned earlier, I need the big first party Nintendo title or the third party exclusive. Like the Bayonetta or some sort of title like that, where you have a highly regarded studio that is making a Switch exclusive.
Like an Astral Chain.
Like an Astral Chain, or I mean, that's really all I can think of at this point. But like, it also has to sort of be a game for me and my tastes, where I think it would live better in a portable form if I had that, if I needed to be in that situation. So like, if Loop Hero first came to Switch and PC, I would have gotten it on Switch, because that's a game that I do want to play in bed. Inscription, if Inscription came to Switch, I'd be playing that on Switch as opposed to PC, because I just feel like it's kind of meant for that experience. But anything else, I'm willing to, forego the portability aspect, because I just don't utilize that stuff. And games like Loop Hero and games like Inscription are games that I don't necessarily care about visual fidelity. I'll play it on an Apple Watch, because it's just, I don't need it to look great and super clear. It just has such a great sort of handheld. It just, I don't know, it lends itself to that form a little bit more. But for you all, what would have to be the title for y'all to say, okay, I am getting this on Switch as opposed to the Steam Deck or my PS5 or my Xbox or whatever?
That's the tough thing for me now, is I don't know what that title is. I think for when I think of indie games coming up for the Switch, the one big one that I've been waiting on forever at this point has been Sports Story, and I've been considering that as, that is going to be a Switch game for me, because I love Golf Story so much on the Switch. But I assume, I've not double checked, but I assume that's coming to PC as well. And now that I have the Steam Deck has killed my indie hunger on the Switch so much. Where I go through, I pick up my Steam Deck, right? And I've organized my library by time played, or not even by time played, but by the latest games I played on my Steam Deck. And I go through it, and it is the Cult of the Lamb preview that I've been doing, Tales of Arise, Neon White, right, which I put a large amount of time into, the Sulaco demo, Agent 64, Spies Never Die. These are all demos from the Steam Next Fest, Melatonin, Angerfoot, and then it is Fire Girl, the actual, like, the full game there I've been playing, Electhead, Card Shark, and the list goes on. And a lot of these games are getting played by me on PC/Steam Deck because these games oftentimes come to PC first. And I think for me, the big barrier to getting full on into the PC ecosystem has been a couple of things. I think part of it is just the way I associate PC with every other aspect of life. I don't want to like sit here and do my day job and then like, log off for the day and then log into a game on another tab
100%.
and continue playing, because it's nice to have the separation from my PC. And then I think also, I'm not a mouse and keyboard person, at least yet. I'm trying to get there, Andy, but like I'm not at that.
Don't give in, Wes. Don't give in.
Oh, but people get so good at shooters on mouse and keyboard. I feel like it's kind of necessary.
I mean, you see me getting PBs and world records in Neon White.
That's the thing is, yeah, I've seen Andy's Neon White gameplay, and I want to compete.
Remember though, Andy for the last 50 minutes hasn't been able to turn on his PC, so just heads up.
I mean, that is also a very fair point. But the Steam Deck comes through, and
great point,
it is. I described it to you before the show, Greg, as the separation of church and state.
Yeah.
Where I am playing games on my Steam Deck, it is a video game device. Like, of course, it is a PC as well, but I am here for the video games. And so I log off on my computer at the end of the day, sit on my bed or sit in the living room or sit wherever and play games that not only are handheld and portable like a Switch, but also look crisp.
Yeah.
Like the Switch also has that just built-in thing of it is not as powerful as these other consoles that have come out. And so after years at this point of playing a PS5 or playing the Xbox Series X and seeing games run in performance mode with character models that look crisp, with frame rates that are smooth, I go back to the Switch, I boot up Pokemon Legends Arceus, and I go, yuck. Like, oh, this looks gross. Get this out of my face. Like, this looks disgusting. And like, it's not the end all be all necessarily, but it is, I think, a lot of chip damage toward
your
me
excitement
choosing, my excitement, me wanting to lean toward the Steam Deck experience or the PC experience or the PS5 experience as opposed to my Switch for indie games at least.
And one of the things that happened here in the live chat on patreon.com/kindafunnygames was Alex G3B, who said, when I was talking about like, the Switch, I'm just not motivated, and yada yada. This is totally going to be Greg talking about his Steam Deck when he gets it, lol. And I understand or whatever. And to put all the Greg character aside and about the Steam Deck and leaving it, yada yada, I really am going to be fascinated because I don't think it will be. Like, I really do think the Steam Deck and exactly what you're talking about, Bless, is such an easy access. And I don't think people understand the amount of Steam keys we get on a given day about all sorts of different indies and all sorts of different games. I really do feel that with the Steam Deck, I'm going to be redeeming these things, and while Jen does whatever, or while Jen's watching a show I don't care about, or putting Benjamin down but I'm just sitting upstairs, like I do feel like I'm way more inclined to pop on and do that and play that. And again, when I'm referencing that, like I'm thinking right now specifically, you can put aside which is a true thing of how much I want to play Sega Master System Ghostbusters again, but Moonglow Bay, where it's like technically what is stopping me from Jen's doing whatever and putting Ben down or watching a show and me popping onto Remote Play or xCloud or whatever and playing Moonglow Bay that way, right? It's the size of my screen on my phone. You know what I mean? My phone obviously is not nearly as big as the Steam Deck's going to be. And like there's those little quality of life things, and not to mention the fact that it's natively running on the device rather than having to, there's a bunch of timing stuff, which I'm sure isn't bad. The latency isn't bad on either Remote Play or Cloud. But I just don't actually see it being the same conversation. And I'm let's be frank, right? I mean, I'm Greg Miller, and I've been covering PlayStation for 15 years, right? Like, I'm not going to wake up with the Steam Deck and be like, you know what? I'm done with trophies, and I'm done with trying to, like, I'm still going to probably request every third-party game I can get on PlayStation. But I feel like I'll be using Steam Deck way more for discovery in a way that, Nintendo isn't. Like, there's so much wrapped up in this. And
what
right
Nintendo
don't. So much wrapped up in this, and the fact that, like, you mentioned Kirby, Pokemon, and Metroid, right? And how those are, for many people, were Game of the Year contenders last year and really didn't move the needle for me for multiple reasons. I guess Pokemon was this year, but you understand what I'm saying. And it's the idea that there's so much still wrapped up in the fact that, like, I know it sounds weird, but I'm a Sega kid. And that's not the fanboyism of it. It's I have no nostalgia for any of that. It does that, you know what I mean? Like, I didn't play a Metroid game until I was probably I watched Metroid Prime in college on a GameCube, right? But I don't have a soft spot for Kirby or for Metroid or for whatever. For, Smash and Kart for sure. And those are like, tentpole Nintendo things. But in general, when I look at a Dread and I hear like, oh, it just doesn't sound like something I want to play. It's not that I want to get into it just because it's Nintendo. And like Kirby, oh, well, it's cute and it's ingenious and it's kind of like Mario Odyssey. And it's like, well, but it's not Mario Odyssey. Like I like Mario. I don't know who I don't know who Kirby is. Yeah, like there's I hear that and I understand that, but there's also then the part of the job is like, well, there's enough people championing that I don't need to go out and like know that, blah, blah. It's like the Nintendo Switch is still going to be this Nintendo thing to me that, and like, I just am not a Nintendo person as much as I've tried, whether it was, falling in love with Super Mario World or loving my NES or having a bunch of great stuff on GameCube and playing the Wii. And yet it's just, I've never crossed over through that looking glass where I'm like, I always feel like an outsider watching Nintendo Direct. And I don't know why. And I think some of it is like, and this is like a broader conversation, but I'm enjoying this therapy session with y'all, is the fact that like,
it's great.
I'm really not, I usually don't vibe with Japanese games, right? Like, I mean, you look at my history of, and like the fact that I just have tried Persona 5 over and over again. And I love Persona 4 Golden. I loved Persona 3, but it's just like, I cannot do the turn-based system. I cannot do that. And yes, there are a million exceptions. I loved Monster Hunter World, and the list goes on.
Yeah, you like Kojima games.
Exactly. I'm not saying it's like clearly this, but it is that thing of like, well, there's Xenoblade, and there's this. And even like, bless at Summer Game Fest, we went and did Soul Hackers 2. And I was like, yeah, this seems cool. And then we got into the turn-based, and I'm like, ugh, like, I want to code for it, and I want to try, and I'm always hopeful that it'll be, again, an exception to the rule, that'll be what hooks me, makes me want to play it. But like, I still feel like I'd rather go play Kingdoms of Amalur Re-Reckoning, right? And enjoy that kind of gameplay and that Western kind of RPG than that, if that makes sense. And like,
no, because you have good taste, Greg. Or you don't.
Oh, I wouldn't say that, Andy.
Okay, well,
the Japanese games are great.
Right? Yeah, I'm trying to think of like, he's my who's my ally
a
here.
Full stop
right
too.
now, really?
Anthony Corbett says Greg needs to play Yakuza. Anthony, IGN.com. Go check out my like 4 fucking Yakuza reviews. I've played Yakuza. I'm glad you all caught up and like it. I've had enough Yakuza because the games are all the same, and I got to push away from the fucking the bar at some point.
Let me this has been a great therapy session, Greg. But I totally agree with you when it comes to turn-based stuff.
I wish I could get into it. God, I wish. And like again, Octopath.
Yeah, you
I
guys
fucking love Octopath.
Step up to the play, y'all. Like there's some good ass turn-based games out there.
Here's the thing, Bless. It's like, I'm preaching and I'm like just speaking gospel to people about that. Like, yes, we don't need fucking the Star Wars game by Aspire. What the hell am I talking about?
KOTOR?
The remake. KOTOR. KOTOR needs to be a real-time combat game.
Oh.
It does not need to be a turn-based game. Nobody wants to wield nobody likes KOTOR because of its turn-based combat. They love it because of the story. And everybody who says that like, oh, you would change the way the game operates, and no, nobody, you didn't like KOTOR for the turn-based combat. Let's be real. You liked it for the decisions and the story and the twists and turns and all that shit. I just wanted to get that out of the way. Greg, I've never given a shit about this man, Kirby. This game is amazing. Yeah. Kirby is amazing, dude. Having just beat it over the weekend, it blew me away in so many different ways that I never thought this fucking little dude could blow me away and suck me in as well.
He blows and sucks you away.
He sucked me into an experience and he blew me away with it. Kirby shot up crazy in my game of the year type stuff. Like, I was not expecting it to be there, and the level of hype it brought, the level of fun with these boss fights that I was not expecting to have really any level of needing dexterity or like quick reactions and shit. Some of the boss fights are so damn creative. The game is endlessly fun and just a joy, and goddamn, Tim was right.
It has such an energy. Yeah, and I'm right there with you, Andy. That like, I think Kirby is incredible. I will say I don't know if Kirby is for Greg. Like, knowing Greg's taste now, like podcasting with Greg for multiple years now, I don't know if Kirby is a game that I would recommend to Greg Miller. I think there's a chance Greg plays it and likes it, but I wouldn't be like, Greg, you're the one that needs to play this Kirby game.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's part of the, again, like, why I just don't feel like I'm in love with the Switch. I definitely love it, and I definitely respect it, and I've enjoyed my time with it. I'm not at all bashing it, right? But I've always said on podcasts, and I mean for years, and gotten grief for it, right, is like, Nintendo makes toys. And I don't mean that as an insult. I just mean their games are meant to inspire joy and be fun, and you get in there and you play with the toys in the world and you do your thing, right? But that's not what I usually want from a game. Like, I want my games to be fun, don't get me wrong, and enjoyable, but like, I want the story. It's the joke, Andy. Does she have an estranged father? Is this main character going through puberty? Is there like some kind of life-changing narrative wrapped around them or whatever, to where just having a cool boss fight. It's what I always talk about of like if gaming had never really changed from the 8-bit era, right? I wouldn't like games. I wouldn't be who I am. And I know I'm boiling something down, but I'm trying to make a point, right? That like while gameplay is king, it can't just be the like Metroidvania.
The end all be all.
Go do this thing. Point, start at one side of the screen, get to the other. Like it's the reason. Like I look at Cuphead, I'm like, Cuphead is gorgeous. Not even the hardness of Cuphead, it's the design of Cuphead, of playing through a level, dying halfway, having to go back and restart and do it all over again. That kind of shit drives me mad. To where you have to memorize like where an enemy's going to be and do it, and then you beat that screen, you get to the next screen, and there's another thing to learn, and you go back and you have to do it over and over again and commit that to memory and muscle memory. I'm like, I get why people love that. It's just not why I like games.
Yeah.
You know, when people say that kind of funny that we're all just an echo chamber, we have all the same opinions. We clearly don't. We have such a wide breadth of, like, Blessing, he's into the, half-naked women and stuff in games. And
what is that? What did that happen? Are you talking about Nier Automata? That game has, first of all, that game has one of the best stories. That's better than any of the stories that Greg Miller's out here playing. Life is Strange. Actually, I love Life is Strange. But...
Come on. We're having a nice therapy session. Don't come throw shots at me.
But no, to actually loop it back around, because, I was actually going to make a similar point that Andy's making right now. The fact that, I think people come to games for people come to games for different things, but also I think different design ethos speak to different people in different ways, which sounds very obvious, but also in the way that Greg talks about how, you lean into story, right? Like you love character development, you love you love experiencing games. I remember you describing Last of Us Part 2 as being like this good book that you can get into and like, you're invested from beginning to end. I'm sure plenty of people would look at you and go, well, Xenoblade Chronicles 3 is about to come out. That's about to have a fantastic story. Or I'm sure there's like plenty of games on the Switch right now that people would point to, but still wouldn't speak to Greg Miller, because I think when you boil it down to the design ethos of what Nintendo goes for a lot of the time and what games designed for the Switch go for a lot of the time, like a lot of times they're speaking to the nerds that are not the same kind of nerd as Greg Miller.
Sure. Like
I play a lot of the same, or I have played a lot of the same like games on the PlayStation side, right? As you, Greg Miller, because we're on PS Love You and we're going through all these things. Check it out. Going through all like these for out every Friday morning. Going through like PlayStation first party games and action games and all these things, right? And Guardians of the Galaxy is a game that I played through. I actually didn't finish it. I probably played like 80% of it. Got there and was like, I can't do this anymore because this gameplay setup bores me. And I think that's a combination of Guardians of the Galaxy not necessarily being the cream of the crop of that type of third-person action game. Like, it has a great story, it has great characters, great visuals, all that stuff. The gameplay bored me. But then also, like, I'm not somebody who naturally wants to get into Assassin's Creed. Even Ghost of Tsushima, that type of game is not an automatic type of game that I want to flock to. The reason why I got super into Ghost of Tsushima is just because that game was fantastic. But generally, when it comes to an open world, third person, Far Cry type of game, or even a Dying Light type of game, typically I am not looking forward to
those. And you're saying all these things, like my eyes are lighting up. I'm like,
let's go. Greg is like, oh, fuck, like the synapses are firing. But I think that comes back to why you're such a trophy person and I'm not, right? Like, you like that completionist energy. You like going through searching for stuff, like taking a world in, finding what's behind the corners and all that shit, right? You like getting a platinum and popping that stuff. I like fighting people and fighting games,
right? Like,
Greg, are you talking about Greg?
No, I was popping off at Greg. It reminded me of the one time we did Blessing, or we did a kind of feudy, where the topic was name a Greg game, and we were all just name a game that Greg evangelizes, and we went through our Patapons and stuff, and then it was Jeff Grubb's turn, and he was like, let's see, what's a bad game? It got me real good. That
was funny.
But yeah, like I think there's often times where those wires cross and like Greg will get into it. I know Greg loved fucking you enjoy Final Fantasy VII Remake.
Oh yeah, I loved it.
You loved Breath of the Wild and all that stuff. And I don't know if those are natural Greg games by any means. And there are times where I love the games that I'm talking about as well. But yeah, like the Switch I think is just aimed toward an entirely different audience, and I think that audience for the most part enjoys that output. But then I also look at the output right now, and Switch right now reminds me of where Marvel is right now with the MCU in terms of we've experienced Infinity War, we've experienced Endgame, and now here's just a bunch of stuff that we're throwing at a wall, and we'll see if some of it sticks, right? No Way Home was fucking dope, but then like not everybody likes Eternals, and not everybody likes Doctor Strange, but you guys like WandaVision, right? Yeah, pretty much. And like, it's kind of all over the place. I went to Nintendo's website. If you go to nintendo.com/sg/schedule, they have like a release schedule for the rest of the year, and going through it, starting in June, it's Mario Strikers Battle League, Fire Emblem Warriors 3 Hopes, Xenoblade Chronicles 3, Splatoon 3, Pokemon Scarlet and Pokemon Violet, and then Bayonetta 3. And it's like, that is a specific group of people that are playing those video games. Like, I don't know if any of those are going to be Greg Miller hits, Andy Cortez hits, or even Blessing hits. Actually, I might enjoy Bayonetta 3 because the half-naked women thing. But yeah, like, I think Nintendo is kind of in an odd place with their releases where it feels like they're in between phases. You know, they're not released the Mario Odyssey 2s. Like the Breath of the Wild 2s are still coming up. Like there's a lot of sequels that I think we're still sitting on, and a lot of exciting stuff that they're still sitting on because they're between a lot of studios making games right now.
That makes sense.
Step it up, Nintendo.
Well, no, it's one of those. I think it's very much. This is an interesting topic for us and me, right? From where I'm feeling of the fact that I just don't turn on my Switch like ever, and I guess I turn on download stuff and I rarely play stuff on it. And like Blessing with the Steam Deck and Andy, just where you are as a PC gamer. But like if we all feel like it all sounds like we're all like and on the Switch, right? But in response to the tweet, like overwhelmingly everybody was down, right, on it. Like they liked it. Nate Fletcher said, "I am in love. Are you in love? I am. I just bought the OLED and it's totally changed my handheld experience for me. Games look like they have an actual visual upgrade." What is it? Yeah, I found a new. This is Bry. I found a new love for it after Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition released, which led me to play 2 and Torna, and now I want it in pure. And now I wait in pure anticipation for 3. Prior to that, I wasn't too much a fan of it. KJ wrote in and said, "Even though I'm more of a PlayStation guy, my Switch is my favorite console, mainly because of how convenient it is to play a lot of fun games on the go, like when I'm riding the subway or waiting for a doctor's appointment." Again, like I think that's such a great. It's the way people talk like. The Switch reminds me, stick with me, in so many ways of the way my PSP reviews read. Right, when I was covering PSP for IGN, like all my reviews were about being on the train or waiting for something, and people from the Midwest would read this where I came from and just be like, I didn't buy a PSP because I don't go anywhere. Like if I'm going somewhere, I'm in my car and then I'm there.
Yeah,
I'm not like I don't need to kill time. I'm not on a plane. I don't need to go do this. It's just not what it's about for me. Which I thought was an interesting way of like, oh, right, like it's all about use cases with it. And I think, again, it'd be very interesting if the pandemic hadn't happened, how much I'd still be using my Switch. Or if I would, hopefully would have gotten a Steam Deck faster and would have turned over quicker. Blessing.
Do you think...
Go for it. Well, yeah, when it comes to just portability and if the pandemic hadn't hit and I likely would have been traveling more, I would have definitely had a lot more situations where I'm going, do I get that on Switch? Do I get it on...
Yeah.
This other device, and I would battle with that often back in the day, and I just haven't had to give that a second thought at all recently.
Do you think part of it too is what our roles are as people who keep up with video games and play them for work, and we're on to the next thing constantly in terms of the next video game releases versus what probably a lot of the audience experiences with the Nintendo Switch, which is the Switch being this evergreen system with evergreen games. And so, like, you pick up a Switch right now, and it is cool. I can go back and buy Mario Odyssey because Mario Odyssey is always a game that's going to be in vogue, or Mario Kart, or Zelda, and the list goes on, or Animal Crossing, right? Like, for the way we play games, right? I think we get excited about what's going on with PlayStation because we have Last of Us Part 1 on the horizon. No pun intended with the Horizon thing. But then we're coming off of Horizon, right? And like after Last of Us Part 1 will be God of War Ragnarok, and after that it's going to be Spider-Man 2. And there's always a big juggernaut that we know we can look forward to there always feels like there's something big and exciting. Even on Xbox with Xbox Game Pass, they're starting to have that now too, where it is, oh man, this fall on Game Pass, you're going to get XYZ thing, you're going to get Persona 5 Royal, you're going to get this, you're going to get that. Whereas on the Switch, so many people are experiencing it as, no, I am playing Mario Kart still. I am playing Mario Odyssey still. I am playing WarioWare or any of these franchises that are bringing back the games that you loved from your childhood. And it is this constant, like the same games selling, juggernaut sales numbers because they're sticking around so long.
I definitely think it comes down to use cases and who you are and what you're expecting and how you play, right? Because again, like so many of the people who wrote in to respond to the question were very much like either yes, I'm in love with it, or no, I'm not in love with it, but it doesn't matter because I only bought it for exclusivity, right? I bought it for the Nintendo games. Michael Elliott wrote in, I was personally never in love with it. It's a platform I have to own for Metroid and Zelda. I imagine it's great for mobile gaming, but I don't do that either. So it's like doubling down on what we already said, right? But it is this idea that like my Switch experience is the tent poles. It is the Kart, it is the Odyssey, it is the Zelda, right? The franchises that matter to me, and Animal Crossing. And so in that respect, like, I'm totally satisfied with what I bought. Like, and I think especially for Nintendo fans coming off of Wii U, right? God, they've got to be so happy because guess what? You have an amazing piece of hardware, an awesome idea for it to be, you know, portable or go. You have the tentpole stuff you imagined, and they're all great so far, with the exception of all the sports games. God damn it. And then on top of that, you have these great indies. You have third-party support. You have a system that's sold well, so it is getting all these different things. And again, if you're that Nintendo fan and that's what you're drawn to, those type of games, then fuck yeah, it's got to be all systems go. And then to your point, Blessing, yeah, it is that, like, people usually, you know, don't consume games the way we consume games, which is get it for a week. It's all you do. You talk about it, you hit the review embargo, or, you know, you talk after the fact and then you move on to the next thing, unless it's something special, right? Unless it's like, and I guess it's still in the window, but unless it's something like you guys with Neon White, of chasing leaderboard scores and sharing that online and doing these different things. Like,
I think part of it for me, Greg, also just it kind of echoing something you mentioned earlier with wanting to stick and assuming you're going to stick with your Steam Deck, is that a lot of these, in my mind, I could be completely wrong, but in my mind, a lot of these newer indie titles are getting their Steam releases first.
Of course.
And
what do you see every time, right, Andy? It's here's this hot, cool indie, and it's coming to Steam, and then it's like the Rolodex of,
Yeah.
You're like, tick, 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 is it going to be Xbox, PlayStation, or Switch? Who's got the exclusive launch of it?
And when it does come to those, it'll be 7 months later, or 5 months later, or a month later, or whatever.
Yeah.
And that seems
Still
to be
waiting on To the Rescue on Switch, right? Like, I had been so excited for this dog shelter
Yeah.
simulator, and then when they got ready for launch, they're like, it's just going to be PC. It'll get there eventually.
And that seems to be pretty common. And when I think of indies that are going to Switch, I think of shitty bloatware. Like, I'm sorry, that's just how I feel whenever I hear what's coming to mom and grab shops on Kinda Funny Games Daily. It's always just a lot of shitty bloatware. Oh, and a really kind of standout indie title that you all might be interested in. But for the most part, it feels like a lot of cheap mobile games that are getting hit there so that they could just try to make as many sales as possible. And it's a $4 game, and that's kind of just, it sucks that that's how I feel about it, but that's just kind of the reality for me. When I think of indies that are coming out that are things you need to wish list on Steam, it is, in my eyes, usually a developer who is wanting to get showcased on Steam Next Fest and maybe trying to be that next breakout Hades title or Inscription or something like that. And when I think of Switch indies, I think of the complete opposite experience, where it's just quantity over quality.
Yeah, it's the Switch indie thing is so interesting because I think there's a bit of both. You know, there's like so much blow. Like, as we were talking to Andy, I went on the Switch store just to see what it looks like on recent releases, because, you know, we do have those days often on KFGD where it is, what the fuck are these games? Like, this is a generator that we're going through. And even as I look, right, like, you know, the game in recent releases, it has Portal, the companion collection, which came out today. A game called Lil Noah, Sullen of Paradise, which looks like some random. I don't know, actually, it looks like a 2D action game. It looks interesting, actually. Never mind. But yeah,
You know what? I just found a great Switch indie, everybody.
Yeah, you know what? I mean, I might purchase this. There's a game called Squish. There's Key and Android Survive, but then you have Casual Gaming Bundle. Then there's a Retro Racing Bundle. These games look garbage. Family Bundle. And then, like, a bunch of games that look like that, right? But then you get Fire Emblem Warriors 3 Houses. You get Capcom Fighting Game Collection. You get AI The Somnium Files. And then you kind of get back to a lot of obscure games again. But, like, when it comes to that, the Switch, I think, does have the indies that matter the most in terms of the ones that are really going to hit. Like, when I talk to people about playing Hades, right? If I'm talking to a friend who may not be a super gamer, like you and me are, Andy, you know, they might not be super ingrained in the ecosystem. I mean, me and Andy are out there grinding Neon White. I don't see you playing Neon White, Greg. I'm sorry.
That's not a Greg game at all.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe it could be, you know, get a mouse and keyboard, Greg. Let's both get into it, you know.
I would love it if Bless is just like, get the fuck on mouse and keyboard, Greg.
Yeah,
what
Greg.
are you thinking?
Let's do it. Oh fuck, I forgot what I was going with. Oh no, but like if I ask a random person, right, who might casually be into video games, oh, you're playing Hades? Oh, what are you playing Hades on? Oh, I'm playing it on Switch. You know, like that. I think that is going to come up as a
for sure
common kind of answer for those types of games, like the indie games that you're thinking of as the bit, like the Celeste of the world, the big indie games that make their way to Switch. That bumps up the library, I think, enough for the people that are pretty much primarily there for the first party stuff to then extend their way and play those games that audience for the most part is sustained. Of course, that audience is always asking for more because I think we're all always asking for more, and the Switch compared to any other platform, I think tends to miss out on primarily like big AAA third party stuff, but then like you're talking about the indies that come to Switch or come to PC first because PC is that open platform where it's easy to develop for, it's easy to get stuff on there compared to anything else.
Sure.
The Switch, I think, does its job well enough that for the most part, it's fine, right? And like, who knows? I think a year from now, if we're still in the same place, that becomes a problem of, okay, no, we're for real. Where are the Switch games? Like, what is going on here? But I think they get enough of the indies that matter that it's not as big of an issue.
I think my problem with it is also just store moderation and visibility. And whenever there's an indie title that pops off on PC, you're going to hear about it from a lot of different outlets. If it kind of shocks a lot of people and it's like, holy shit, this is like a must play indie title from this unknown developer. When it's on, I look at the Switch mobile store like the way I look at when I open the Android app store. Like that's the sort of comparison I'm thinking, where I just think this is a $2 cash grab with a bunch of like microtransactions or something like that. Like that's a level of quality I look at, where I don't think that the store necessarily has a whole lot of moderation and trying to filter the best stuff to
like
the
curation.
top.
And you feel Steam does.
I think when an indie title breaks out, it's easier for me to hear about it on Steam. I think you can open up the Steam store and just see a bunch of bullshit like you would on the Nintendo store.
As a first off, I want you to keep going, but as a non-PC player, I turn on Steam and I'm overwhelmed and I'm just like, what the fuck? There's so much shit that's out all over the place, and it's usually some fucking World War simulator. I don't know what the fuck's going on. But to on the flip flop, as somebody who looks at the eShop way more and is in the eShop also is just like, here's a whole bunch of fucking shit. Here's a fire hose of content, and here's a whole bunch of stuff we've pinned. And 1-2 Switch is still $50 fucking. Here you like.
I mean, for like inside baseball, right? Like when we do KFGD and we're putting together the doc. There's a write up that Zach Swisen at Kotaku does called This Week in Gaming. Sometimes does. Every now and then he doesn't.
Zach.
Every now and then he doesn't do it. And what I do is I go on Steam and I look at like, okay, what are the recently released games? What games came out today? And I organize by date. And it is a bunch of garbage. It is like, what the fuck are any of these games? Like these can't be real games. These are like fucking 5 cents each. Like stuff like that, where it's like, holy shit, I can't believe you guys are putting this on here.
Yeah, I guess when I go to the eShop, when I open the feature tab, there's going to be Nintendo exclusives and there's going to be third-party titles that I already know about. And when I open Steam and I see like the new and noteworthy section, where it is
that's a good
curated
point.
sections of brand new indie titles or stuff that's on sale that maybe came out last year that just completely passed me by, and I see a genre that I'm interested in, it just feels like I'm getting less of the bloat near the top on the Steam store.
Gotcha.
That's very fair. And Steam also has things like Steam Next Fest, which I think takes it to another level. And I wish Nintendo and even Xbox and PlayStation, Xbox has like some stuff like that. PlayStation and Switch in particular, I wish they did more stuff like the Steam Next Fest, because that's been really great for me in discovery. And for those who don't know what Steam Next Fest is legit like just hey, here's a bunch of games that are coming to the platform that look dope as fuck, and they all have demos. Come through, play the demos. Switch especially for what we're talking about, I think could use that level of curation, because I do see the same exact thing. I feel like if I'm looking for new indie games that are come to the Switch platform, usually I'll just organize by best selling, and like any of the notable indie games usually pop up on there, but it's not always, right? Like it's so easy to miss out on exciting stuff on there.
Yeah, I'm just opening up the Steam store. I just looked at the I love their logos right now for this Steam 3000 summer sale. They're having a lot of fun over here.
Yeah, there's always usually like some kind of cool sale.
But here it is. Yeah, I mean, why wouldn't I want to go play Europa Universalis 4? Knock it off with all this stuff. You know what I mean? Make real games about Spider-Man. That's what you got to do. Makes me sick to
the other day they did have the before Steam Next Fest, they had a a section where all the I think it was like the season of Rogue or the something of Rogue, where it was just like, hey, here's a bunch of really popular roguelites or Metroidvanias or Souls likes, and it was just kind of like, we're showcasing this genre for about a week and a half, and here's all these titles that if you are interested. I just feel like they do a much better job of having events, like you were mentioning, Bless, like Steam Next Fest, or even like the Steam Summer Sales. There's always just kind of some titles that you may have had an eye on 2 years ago, and now you're like, oh shit, that's on sale now. I do want to buy the Raft. This, that survival game where you're on a raft and sharks are trying to eat you and shit. I just feel like less of the bloat gets filtered towards the top on Steam.
I will say I am ready for a Switch. I feel kind of scared to say these words actually, but I'll say it anyway because I'm brave. Switch Pro, like some next iteration of the Switch, because I'm at the point. It has to be coming, and I'm at the point where I'm like, I don't know what to ask for anymore in terms of new Switch games. Like, obviously, I'm asking for Metroid Prime 4, and I'm asking for the return of Earthbound, and there are the more niche stuff that I have the requests for. But in terms of the big Nintendo games, I feel like all of them are out. Like, we just got Mario Strikers. Like, what else can you give me in terms of the big stuff that you'd expect to come to the platform? And I think that kind of comes back to how tired I think I am when it comes to the way these games run and the way these games look. It just feels like it's time to refresh, and then
but even if
give
they
me
refresh
the cool
it, right? Like
versions of
the
those.
next Switch isn't gonna Nintendo's not gonna. We've learned this time and time again. The next Switch isn't gonna be here's great online. Here's our games really adapting to it. It's not gonna be hey, here are stunning visuals for every Nintendo game. They'll even though they'll look better than the Switch currently, they'll still be like, we're sticking with that Nintendo art style and whatever.
God, why though?
No, I mean, I don't mind the I don't mind the art style. I think when Nintendo is at their best, their games look gorgeous. It's like when I think Odyssey is still one of the best looking games, because I just think when the hardware is in the right hands, a lot can be done with it. But sometimes you get crappy Mario Golf looking games, and that game will just has forever scarred me with like, how can a Nintendo game look like this when we've had so many gorgeous titles? And Kirby Forgotten Land looks amazing. Like that's another title that I feel like when the Switch hardware is in the right hands, things can look great. I don't really mind much about the art style. Just give me a higher res and 60 frames. Like
I think that's the thing I care about more.
I don't need ray tracing. I'm not trying to play the next latest gen game. I would love to open up Breath of the Wild on my Switch and have it run in 60 frames at 1440p or something like that.
Yeah, I don't need 60 FPS 4K ray tracing on the Switch. I just need I need to not see the jaggies on the characters, right? I don't need to see the jagged edges. I think just a bit more power to kind of bring it up to an acceptable place now that we have so much tech that has pushed way beyond what the Switch is doing. I think just a little bit of catch up would go a long way.
A little bit of juice, Bless.
A little bit of juice, and I don't think the next iteration of all the games that we get at every generation for Nintendo, I don't think the next iterations of Breath of the Wild or I should say Zelda, actually, next iteration of Zelda or Mario Kart or whatever needs to have tech be the driver for. This is why we're putting out the next iteration. Here's Mario Kart, but now it's in 4K. Like, I don't need that as the selling point. Give me a Mario game with a new art style. Give me a Mario Kart that has different mechanics or whatever. And if technically it feels just a minor step forward, at least a step forward for me. And for me, that's about enough for what the Switch is. But even the Steam Deck, I think, has proven the power you can put into something handheld. And I'm sure Nintendo doesn't want to make their next handheld as fat as the Steam Deck. But hey,
they don't care about power. They never have. That won't be their thing. What won't it be?
I will say,
not to mention, they're not going to turn their back on the Switch install base right now.
Yeah,
keep making games for that Switch, so it's like, it can only look so much better on whatever the next thing is.
I will say, after not picking up my Switch for a while because I've been on the Steam Deck train for the last few months, picking up my Switch, just messing around with it for this episode, man, this thing, I fucking love the Switch. Just like in terms of design, because this is just a fucking tablet.
You said at the top you weren't in love anymore, and then you're like, I love the Switch.
Yeah, well, I guess it's a love-hate relationship. It's bittersweet.
Whenever he tells, when Blessing first got the Steam Deck, he was like, "Man, I pick up the Steam Deck, like, yeah, the Nintendo Switch feels like shit."
Yeah. Like now that it's been so long, I pick it up and I'm like, oh man, this is
I
fucking
miss
cool.
you.
As
Yeah.
someone who's-
I mean,
who's-
grass is always greener, bless.
As
Grass is
someone
always
whose Steam Deck is in the mail right now and on the way and will be delivered shortly, I think what I found really interesting, Bless, when you let me grab your Steam Deck, and this goes out to everybody who hasn't grabbed a Steam Deck yet, was how it didn't feel super heavy. Like people had made it out, oh man, it's heavier than the Switch. It's gonna, and like when I grabbed it off from you at the airport, I was like, oh shit, fuck, this ain't nothing.
Yeah, no, it's not that bad. I think it's bulky, but it's not.
Yeah.
You know, it's not a huge piece of machinery by any means.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're excited to see you hate us in the comments for if you're still in love with your Nintendo Switch, but let us know. Every different strokes for different folks. You know how it is over there. But if you didn't know, you could also go to patreon.com/kindafunnygames. Over on patreon.com/kindafunnygames, you, of course, could write in to be part of the show. You, of course, could be live in the chat like Bander SN is right now. You, of course, get the post show we're going to do after this. But most importantly for right now, you could get the show ad-free. But guess what, Jack? You're not listening on patreon.com/kindafunnygames. So here's a word from our sponsor. This podcast is brought to you by something Tim literally uses every day. AG1. Tim's birthday is June 30th, and he decided to give himself the gift of taking care of his body with AG1. With one delicious scoop of AG1, you're absorbing 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole food source, superfoods, probiotics, and adaptogens to help start your day right. This special blend of ingredients supports your gut health, your nervous system, your immune system, your energy, recovery, focus, and aging, all the things! Tim mixes AG1 with his water, loves the taste, and says he's feeling better than ever. Athletic Greens has over 7,000 five-star reviews, and Athletic Greens is a climate-neutral certified company. Right now, it's time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with convenient daily nutrition. It's just one scoop in a cup of water every day. That's it! No need for a million different pills or supplements to look out for your health. To make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/kindafunny. Again, that's athleticgreens.com/kindafunny to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutrition insurance. Blessing, Andy, Greg. We have all been playing a little game called Cult of the Lamb. Andy, do you like Cult of the Lamb?
Yes.
Expound.
Well, you guys have these preview codes. What's up with that? How do I get that? What the hell?
How did you play Cult of the Lamb?
I just downloaded a demo.
It was
looks
Steam
like
Next Fest demo.
It seems like it's fine for then. You played it fine.
How much have you played, Greg and Andy?
I just got in before this. I've always had my eye on it, and then when you guys were both like, oh, let's preview Cult of the Lamb at the second half of the show, I was like, oh shit. So I downloaded my code and got in and started playing it. So I've only done through the intro, I've got my cult. I've started, I chopped up the tree, I made them food, and then I went out to go get more cult members, and I'm on the first run of that. I'm super early.
So Greg, so you Fultoned back your cult members to work on Mother Base.
Yeah.
Isn't it the coolest? No, I didn't see it. No.
Okay, I'll bring it up over here. Hold on. You can keep going. Don't stop the show.
Okay. Anyway, yeah, I absolutely loved this game. I only was able to play the demo, and I thought it was a scripted death when I lost to the first boss. And then Clara, one of the PR people, told me that no, it's not a scripted death. You just died. So that kind of broke my heart. But this game, in the same way that Rogue Legacy 2 really surprised me with having some of the tightest controls 2D wise, this game feels so clean and smooth to control in that 3D space. It is a isometric sort of top-down game. It's sort of played at like a 3/4 view. Art style incredibly unique. Like you are essentially just these 2D cutouts on a 3D sort of plain world. Imagine like a non-pixelated version of Triangle Strategy or something like that, or Octopath Traveler or whatever.
Sure.
The art style is just like super crisp, really nice, easy on the eyes, really awesome concept of you are essentially, you were killed and you were brought back to life by this devil who's like, hey, we're going to put you back on Earth because I want you to build a cult in my name. And you save somebody who's in trouble, and then that person becomes your first sort of devoted member of your cult.
And this is, if everybody's watching, this is my first cultist right here. Named him Andy Cortez.
Oh,
really? You've been doing that too? I've been doing the same thing.
I named my first cultist bitch ass Greg.
Oh well,
Wow.
fuck. Greg Getty's gonna be pretty pissed
Well,
about
what's-
that when he
what's the
finds out.
inspiration
We
there?
should probably call him right now and let him know. Cool Greg would take that too seriously if I did that. Andy did what?
It was so damn cool to bring back the little dude home, and then you're essentially building a home base, much like Mother Base in Metal Gear. You're Fultoning back your little members, and you're sending them back to chop down trees and build a little a place to make food so that you could eventually feed your cult members. You have to kind of resource manage and keep everything working back at your home base while also adventuring and going out into the world and essentially dealing with this sort of roguelite boss rush area where you're going through different rooms. And this room, I could go straight to the boss, or I could go to this room that might have an upgrade that could upgrade this one ability to the next thing, which then gives me more damage and firepower. Or there's another ability here that I prefer to the one I have right now. It has those roguelite hooks, but with the sort of added system of a home base kind of manager builder. It's just really dope, and I was really bummed out when the demo ended because I just want the game to be out right now.
Blessing, you feeling the same way?
Yeah, I absolutely adore it. Right, I put in almost 3 hours into the build that we got for the with the preview codes, and it's funny because I on PS Love You XOXO I have been talking a lot about Dark Cloud over the years and how man Sony Japan Studio whoever should bring back Dark Cloud because Dark Cloud would be such a hit in 2022 when you're talking about how big roguelites have become in the last few years when you're talking about how big games like Animal Crossing and a lot of other semi-type games have become. There is every single reason to bring back Dark Cloud, which is a game that is half roguelite and then the other half is building a town, talking to people in your town, finding resources, all that stuff, yada yada. A modern version of that, I've been talking about how that would be a banger, and Cult of the Lamb is basically just that. And it's like obviously very different from Dark Cloud, different systems, but at its core, it is hey, here's half roguelite where you're going into these dungeons, you're fighting through, you're completing challenges, but you're also finding coins, you're finding villagers, you're finding resources to bring back to your cult, and then yeah, the other half of the game is you being in your cult and like managing it and building up structures and preaching sermons for some reason and like doing all of the semi elements of stuff that usually in any other game wouldn't hit for me because I am not a sim kind of person for the most part. Again, like I do like Dark Cloud, but that was even less simmy than what this game is.
Sure.
But in this game is doing it for me, and I think that's partly because the cult theme is really fun and kind of ridiculous in ways that I think really make it work. You know, you're playing as a lamb. That's why it's called Cult of the Lamb, because you are the lamb that is leading this cult. And then eventually you can name your cult, and I named my cult Blessings Cult. Of course, because you have to. I've been finding ways to, have some meta fun with it. So I've been naming all of my my cultists after people I know and friends.
You got
so
to.
I have one. Yeah, that's how you got to
It's
do.
like when you played NHL '94, you built your team with everybody on it.
I've seen so many people do that with XCOM, and I'm like, oh, I want to do that sometime. And this game seems like the game to do it in. And so, like, I've named, don't tell Barrett this, I named one of them Bear, and I named one of them Raj, and I named like another one Sarah and Yusef and Belinda. I'll eventually get around to naming some Greg and Andy. Don't worry, guys, I got you. But yeah, like I've been having that level of fun with it, where I'm going through, I am talking to my different cultists, taking on missions that then adjust your relationship with those cultists. And so, like, the more you fulfill their objectives, or the more you like, give them blessings or whatever, that then helps increase that relationship to keep that cultist around. I don't know how far that goes. I think cultists can die. Cultists can turn on other cultists, it seems like, but I'm not taking those systems.
Well, yeah, because they can starve,
degree.
right? That's one of the things. You have to keep them fed, so you have to go ahead and you have to keep the fire going. You have to make the thing. You have to do this stuff.
Exactly, and yeah, like I'm really enjoying it. It is such a great art style, and the characters are really adorable, which again I think adds a lot to it having this really dark, fucked up, culty, but also comedy driven tone to it, which really appeals to me. And then yeah, the dungeon crawling is really fun. I think it feels really good to play. It's difficult at points, but for the most part I've not been struggling too much. I think I've died maybe like twice and out of the maybe 7-ish runs that I've done.
Okay.
But now with the build I have, I think I'm locked out, because at some point the game is just like, all right, stop, you played too much, this is a demo.
Yeah,
like,
the codes we got do have a lock on them, but the saves will transfer over, which is nice.
Yeah, but I've been enjoying it a lot.
Yeah, I just wanted to hop in before
Please.
Greg goes, but I was I was just really happy that this game sort of lived up to what the vibe that it gave off visually.
For sure.
Because that can happen a lot. We'll see a trailer for a game and it looks like, oh wow, this indie title is going to hit in a big way, and then sometimes it just doesn't deliver. And this game delivered tenfold, which has me so excited that not only did it present well in this presentation and it had this neat art style that we said, oh, that's a cute little concept. I wonder, if this is more style or substance, and it seems to be a perfect combination of both.
Yeah, again, I'm right there with you, Andy. That's a great way to put it for my first blush of like 30 or 40 minutes with it. Probably 30. It was like, yeah, I started playing. I'm like, oh, is this going to be another one where, again, a Greg game, right? Where I like the style and I like the art, but the gameplay doesn't get me. But like once I got through and I fought the first thing and I had the dodge roll, I fought all the guys, and then I got back to and had the cultist. I was like, oh shit. When it was like, oh, it's gonna be like Peace Walker, it's gonna be like Fultoning these guys. Oh shit! And then you get there, and then it's like Animal Crossing of build out your town, and like, oh well, you can only put the fire pit on these, tiled areas as you figure it out. I'm like, oh, if I can see me super getting into this and building this place out, and then even look ahead on what I haven't played, but I've seen other people doing of like, navigating the different ways, right? Where you clear a room and the door opens, and then it's like, well, do you want to go this way or that way? And like, you have to look on what resources you need or what might be the thing you get from that next area, and you go there and you do that. And then there's the thing where it's like flipping cards, which can give you, more health or give you something else. And there's the different weapons and all this stuff. Like, there's so many layers to it that it reminds me, not in terms of this style at all, but in terms of some of the mechanics I'm seeing of Bastion, and I love Bastion so much from Supergiant, and I know that's something that obviously has been carried over to many of their games and a billion other games too, but having this little world, building your little town, having ownership over that, naming everybody after people, I think is really going to get me into it.
1000%. Yeah. What do you all like? Obviously this game comes out in August 11th. Where do you all see this kind of ending up on your top 10, top 5?
Oof. It's so early to say, because I think part of what's going to take this game further for me is the longevity of it. It feels like a game that you're supposed to stick with and come back to in the way that you come back to an Animal Crossing and put in maybe 20 hours, 30 hours, 40 hours, and beyond if you feel super hooked into it in that way. I will say my one thing that currently is holding it back for me in my preview is when Greg was talking about some of the systems in there as far as the roguelite stuff and choosing which way you want to go and the upgrade systems and all that stuff. A lot of it feels very Hades in a great way, but also in a way where I compare it to Hades in my head, and Hades felt way more deep with those systems in a way where Cult of the Lamb, after the 3 hours, I could see places where I'm like, oh man, I wish like there was more here in terms of the rooms I'm exploring and more stuff to discover in the rooms or more secrets or more like I wish there was more. I guess overall in the roguelite segments of it, it feels like that stuff is meant to be bite-sized. Like the longest I think it's really taken me to get through any of the roguelite runs through the forest has been like maybe 10 minutes or so, which is great for if you're the sim kind of person and you're just like, cool, let me do a quick run to then bring stuff back. I think it's great for that. But if you're a roguelite person like me, I feel like I'm missing out on a lot of that.
And that's what's going to be interesting is because I am the sim person of it, right? And what it reminds me not a lot of, but similar to is Moonlighter, which of course, if you remember, the Kind of Funny Reddit had totally pegged as, hey, this is a Greg ass game, and he missed it. And so and this is years ago now, when I got into Moonlighter on my Switch, I was like, holy shit, this is amazing. Of going into the dungeons, battling, killing things, then bringing out the things the monsters and things I killed there, and putting them into my shop and selling it. So I was moonlighting as an adventurer. I was really running a shop, and I fucking adored that. But the gameplay of going into the dungeons did get punishing, and it was there, it would be for a while of like, it really was, fucking stomping you until you had that moment of you've gotten the right build or you've gotten the right buff, and you go in there and you get to really tear shit up and get what you want and come out and sell it that way. So it's going to be fascinating because that's such an interesting balance. If it goes the other way with this, where it's more leaning towards build your town for build your cult land for your followers and yada yada yada, and if that is awesome, and then if the gameplay is good, but it isn't super punishing, if the gameplay is fun, like where does that go? Where it like might burn you out, but it'll be super addictive for me to keep going in there and build out my town because that's what I want.
And that's the thing is, I as we're talking about it, I could see how this would appeal to that certain audience that you're talking about, Greg. Where for me, for a game like this, I want to beat this game in like a week or two, right? I want to get in there, do the runs, build my cult, and be like, oh man, cool, I did the damn thing. I fucked up this roguelite and I killed it. Whereas I could see the going for a hit a day approach working way better if you're playing it for, let's say, 2 months or whatever, but you're coming in every single day to do 1 or 2 runs, which might run you like 15 to 20 minutes, come back to your cult, do all the sim stuff, right? Build some or mine some rocks, build some trees. I don't know how this shit works. Preach a sermon and then like be like, cool, I'm done for the day. I did all my responsibilities. You put it down, wake up the next day and do it all over again. I think for that type of player, which I assume might be more your style of maybe wanting to play this game, that might be a hit. Whereas for me, wanting to maybe go through it in a week or two, I can see myself kind of getting bored with it, playing it that way.
Well, August 11th, not that far off. Of course, it's coming to literally everything. Cult of the Lamb, published by Devolver, made by Massive Monster, and that isn't the only preview you have for you today. Andy, you want to talk about the Cycle Frontier?
Yeah, just really quickly, because Cycle Frontier has been out since June 8th. I believe that's kind of when it hit its, who knows, with beta and 1.0 releases knows. And all this sort of stuff. But Cycle Frontier is a PC game developed and published by Jaeger. And the Cycle Frontier is, in my opinion, an approachable Escape from Tarkov.
Okay.
It looks like Fortnite, has that really nice sort of cartoony, not too cartoony style, with a really neat world, very alien, you're basically like in an alien-like jungle. But the audio is fantastic. You have this sort of home base when you're back home. It's a first-person shooter. But the way it works is when you spawn into the game, you are essentially in a gigantic kind of home base area where there are a lot of mini objectives you can go get from the 3 different factions in the world. Like one of them is like a weapons dealer, another one is a whatever dealer, and they all kind of give you little mini missions that you can then go out forth and try to find those 3 flowers or try to kill 5 of those animals or whatever. But while you do that, there are other players trying to likely do the same thing, or maybe they're further along than you, or maybe they're just players that are assholes that want to pick on lower level players. But essentially when you go out there, it's you going out there by yourself or you going out there with friends. It's a PvE, PvP type game. Sometimes you don't talk to people. When I played with Mike the other day on the KindaFunny stream, there were 3 different moments where we ran into other players where you use proximity chat. And one guy was like, please don't kill me, man. I'm just trying to get these things. I don't want to get killed. I don't have any weapons. Please don't kill me. And Mike was like, Andy, ask him if he's got those flowers. And I was like, hey, man, you got these flowers? And he's like, yeah, bro. Yeah, take them all. Take them all. Please, I don't want to die. I don't want to die right now. And we're like, all right, man. And I took the flowers. Like, you're a hero, bro. Thanks, man. And we just pieced out. And we're like, oh, I really hope he doesn't come back to kill us with a friend later or something like that. But That's it has awesome. All those really thrilling DayZ-like interactions that I hadn't had in a PC game in a long time. When you even think about PUBG and having their sort of tech or their proximity chat, there's a couple of bad guys, other enemy players that will shoot at you and they don't say anything and you just kind of fire back and hopefully you will win. But those really kind of thrilling moments where you're really close to your evac spot. You want to get to the evac spot without dying and you want to leave with the things you sought out to get, the 5 flowers or the animal bones or the pieces of metal or whatever.
It's kind of like Extraction and Division for when you're in the dark zone.
Exactly, yeah. It's like the dark zone. But sometimes on the trek back, you'll see a drop pod come in. And you're like, oh, fuck, that's another player. I'm just going to stay here and stay quiet, and hopefully they walk by me and don't see me. Or we'll be running around sometimes, and you'll just hear like, hey, man, hey, I don't want any trouble. Please don't kill me. And we're like, who the fuck's talking to us? And we look and we find them out in the distance. And he's like, hey, man, I'm just trying to do this thing. Please. I've already been killed like 4 times today, man. I just want to get these pieces of metal. And we're like,
awesome.
All right, man. Good shit. And they just go on their way. And it is so thrilling because you know you're a lower level. You don't know what the other players are. Sometimes you get killed by aliens. There's like these alien monsters kind of inhabiting this jungle. But it just gives you that sort of thrill when you're walking about and you have really low level weapons and you hear gunshots. You're like, oh, fuck, somebody's near us. The audio is fantastic in this game. And the cool thing is, if you make it out alive, you can buy weapons. You can buy upgrades for the weapons, attachments. It has this sort of same looting system where it's the green weapon and the blue weapon, and this one's purple. It's better, rarity or whatever. And it's free to play. I could see where the microtransactions can get a little paid to winish if you want to quickly upgrade your stuff and buy, instead of venturing out to get those 5 sheets of aluminum, whatever the hell that you need to get for that one faction. I think the battle pass sometimes just gives you some of those items. So I'm not exactly sure how bad the microtransaction situation gets, but it's really fun. It's got a great style to it, and it gets even deeper when you're kind of back at your home base and you could walk into your residence area, and it kind of reminds me of like Outriders in a way, where Outriders has a lot of menus for better or for worse, and you open up a menu, you're like, oh, I can claim something here. I didn't know I had loot to claim in this fucking screen. Let me just hit the claim button. What do I get for it? I think there's like a lot going on systems wise that's really exciting, and the fact that it's free to play is really dope. And like, it's a game that I immediately bought the battle pass for.
Oh yeah,
because like
I might hit download on this. I'm looking at it right now.
I could tell I want to play it, and I can tell I want to get into it. And sometimes you're just doing missions and you're just fighting alien life, and that's fine. But on the off chance that like, all right, we're running to the extraction spot, and then you see another extraction ship call in, and I'm looking at Mike, and I'm like, Mike, did you call on the ship yet? Because this isn't our ship, dude. There's somebody else here. Like, it is just so exciting. And yeah, I haven't really felt this way about a PC game since like DayZ, honestly, back in the day. It's really exciting, and I want to definitely play some more of it.
Awesome. Can't wait for it. You're streaming it tomorrow, I see here on the calendar. So you can go to kindafunny.com. No, youtube.com/kindafunnyplays. And you can catch the archive if you've missed it live on twitch.tv/kindafunnygames. But of course, where you should really go is patreon.com/kindafunnygames. On Patreon, you can get each and every episode of the Kinda Funny Gamescast early. How early? You can be watching live as we record it right now, just like Royal is, Louise is, and Mr. Hawks 182 is. What?
I'm laughing at Louise quoting Still Like Mike the other day, because there was that moment where this guy was like, "Hey man, I'm just please don't kill me. We're just trying to get these things," and we're like, "All right, man. All right. Do you got any of these things?" And the guy was like, "Nah, man. Sorry." And we were like, "All right, cool." And we walked away, and Mike was like, "Damn, we're crazy, bro. We're wild." Like, all we did was communicate, but like sometimes when you kind of impose your will, because again, this one dude that was terrified of dying, Mike started shooting him. We hunted his ass down, and we found him hiding in a corner. And that's when he was like, "Please don't kill me, man. Please. I'm just trying to get out with these things." And it's like, I didn't want to be evil, and chat was rooting on Mike to kill the guy. I was like, "No, don't kill him, Mike. Don't kill him." But it was just funny that like all we did was have a simple interaction with the dude. Mike was like, "Damn, we're wild, bro."
You can be wild on patreon.com/kindafunnygames too, and get, of course, every episode of the Gamescast ad-free and with the post show we are about to do. However, if you have no bucks to toss our way, no big deal. youtube.com/kindafunnygames, roosterteeth.com, and podcast services around the globe each and every week to see us talk about the games we love, like, and sometimes want more from. If you like all of that, great. Thanks for being a fan. Thanks for hanging out. We got a post show to do. Sorry again about how the show looked, but hey, we got you a show. That's what mattered, right? You know what I mean?
Ghostbusters?
Yeah, I've been turning Ghostbusters on and off as I went. I did an animated Kirby where I took the Kirby box art and moved that around for a while, and then I've been doing YouTube B-roll for some of it and just leaving it up. But I've been trying over here, man.
He made the Kirby thing look like the DVD menu.
Yeah,
that bounces around the borders of the screen.
Oh, that's really
what
good.
he did. Yeah,
but the kids loved it.
If you're
an audio listener, you're missing out.
Yeah, well, they knew that. I mean, they had suffered through my rendition in the very beginning of the theme song from 10 years ago, so whatever. Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, we got a post show to do. So until next time, it's been our pleasure to serve you.